So I got to tell you this story, man. This morning I received this call, right?
Yeah.
And the call, it says from Pennsylvania. And usually I just if I don't recognize the number, it's just a decline because I get junk calls all the time. But I
Right.
see Pennsylvania and I'm like, Neil lives in Pennsylvania. I don't know why he would need me in an emergency.
What? I don't
Maybe it's
think.
him. And for some reason, I'm the only number he can remember. I don't know. So I decided to answer it. I answer it. And this voice on the other end goes, "Hey, it sounded exactly like you, man."
What the fuck?
Exactly like you. And I was like, Neil? And it was like, "We just found out that you signed up to find out about healthcare. And we wanted to, and I was like, for a hot second, straight up thought you were playing a prank on me. I was like, this is some weird prank that I don't understand. He went down to the corner, he dialed me from a payphone, and he's trying to sell me insurance like most calls are. Did we talk about this where I get calls about insurance all the time?
That's really strange.
It was really strange. And I was like, I actually said, "Neil, you son of a bitch." And then it just kept talking. I was like, oh, this is a recording. This isn't Neil at all. I don't know what to do with this.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, and my name is Zachariah Van Sliders with Old Man Gaming, and welcome to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. We are at episode 38, if you can believe it, against all odds. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
Yes, Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard. And as usual, I want to just open up with some disclaimers. My child is down here with the tablet behind me, so I am sure we will be hearing from her at some point. Apologize for that ahead of time. I'm a part-time house dad. That's how I got to run this. Number two, let's get into the credits. Mark Bell, thank you to all your original graphics for this channel and the other shows that we use. It is appreciated. And then, of course, the song you just heard was written and performed by my brother, Nicholas Van Sliders. I want to add something to the disclaimers and credits today. So, as you guys have noticed, this will now be, I think, the third week in which my original co-host, Logan, a.k.a. Knight645, was absent. And I just want to speak on this for a second. Sorry, I had to mute the mic for a second because I had to sneeze. Okay, so what I want to say is Logan has decided to step back from the podcast for a few weeks, some time. He's got a lot on his plate with his school. And, of course, we all have a lot of stress on our plate right now, and his heart isn't in it. And if his heart's not in it, then he shouldn't be doing it. It's that simple. I want to say something specifically to him, though. Logan, you come back whenever you want. You take however long you need, and that's completely fine. But I do want you to know from the bottom of my heart that I will always want you on this podcast. This podcast would not exist without you. It just wouldn't. You started this podcast with me. This channel wouldn't even really exist without you, because before you told me, "Hey, Zach, you should just do reviews," I was doing those stupid narrative videos that nobody watched. So I just want to say thank you to you. And like I said, this is not goodbye. Logan is still working on the channel. He's still running our Discord. Please join. And I'm sure he's going to come back at some point. I just want to make sure that Logan feels like wanted. You are wanted, Logan. We love you on this podcast. We can't wait for you to come back. So take all the time you need, buddy. And I just want to say thank you for everything you've already done so far as well, because I know I make fun of you sometimes for being late, and we do some skits about it here and there. And I just want everybody to know that we do that for comedy. Logan is a very important part of the process of this podcast and this channel. And I want you to know, Logan, that you are. So whenever you want, come back. We welcome. And of course, he's still working on the channel. He's still going to be answering questions via OMFD, and he's going to be running our Discord. So like I said, whenever he wants to come back to the podcast, he can. He just needed a break. That's totally fine. I wanted to take this moment to kind of, because like I said, I mock sometimes too much, and I just want him to make sure he knows how important he is to the process of all this. All right, so with that out of the way, we're going to go into Fan Interaction. Fan Interaction is one of our personal favorite segments. It's where we read the fans that you guys read the comments you fans have written in various places. And we also decide the horrible winner from the last week. So with the horrible arena hanging above our head, I think we should just go ahead and get that out of the way, Neil.
All right.
I'm kind of bothered because you didn't get any votes, and I loved your game. It's weird. I am feeling very strange. I'm usually very happy about my win, but I got a win, and you didn't get any votes, and that's weird to me. Really weird.
I mean, honestly, though, a little behind the scenes sort of stuff. Literally the past 2 weeks, I came fully 100% unprepared with anything at all. It was just off the top of my head. So, I mean, if anything, it'd be a lack of preparation, which I'm not that upset about it.
I mean, I guess I thought your game was really good pitch, and if that came off the dome, that was pretty good off the dome. I felt like you were at least at the same quality as mine, and mine was thought of for many hours. But to read those votes out, somebody who has like never voted on the podcast ever was the guy who does our graphics, Mark Bell. And anybody out there listening who knows Mark Bell already knows this. But he is crazy for mecha. Like, I mean, crazy for mecha. He will do just about anything for mecha. So he actually said via a messenger tweet to me, I haven't even made it to Neil's pitch yet, but I already want to vote for yours. It feels a lot like Mecha Warrior Mercs, but a lot more sandbox, except Armored Core also. To which I said, the mecha combat and Battletech is bullshit. And he said exactly. So that was his little messenger post to me for his vote. And then Kevin, throwing some shade both our ways, said, so in this week's arena, I have to be honest, I kind of have to give half a point to each of you. Zach, the basis of yours had me hopeful, but the purely player-driven story killed me. I like making things up as I go, but I also really want something to discover or work towards that I don't really have control over. Neil, your game does not make me want to create dungeons for it, but I would probably try to play through at least one once because I do like dungeony types games. I still play Diablo 2 from time to time. Yours has potential to draw me in after playing, but by your pitch, I'm out on it as well. In the end, if I had $50 and these were the only two games I could ever choose from, I'm buying Zach's game because I'm a bit of a mech head. Sorry, Neil. Why don't you just say sorry to us both? They were awesome pitches, Kev Too Tall. You're a crazy person.
I mean, honestly, I got a half a point. He did say that he'd give a half a point, so get a half a vote. So I didn't get none.
Right. It was yeah, I can't believe you didn't like those. Although I will say all my chips are pushed into the player-driven story, whereas I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. So I'm gonna probably lose a lot on my player-driven stories. And then finally, we had Phil Billy vote to me personally via text, if I can find it. And he says, my vote is for your game. I did not like Neil's at all, laugh out loud. And the quest I'm playing in Borderlands 3 and Monster Hunter. Obviously. I didn't quite understand that. But basically, I know him. He's not huge into the horror games. I didn't think he was going to vote for yours, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not that big a fan of horror games either. There's a handful of them, but that's about it.
Neither do I, but I loved the idea of your like 4v1 scenario with the ideas of like dungeon creation. It's almost like a video game engine for role playing chances, and I thought that was just really cool and original. But the crown goes back to my head, and then we have a subject tonight that neither one of us are gonna really love. But to keep fan interaction going, of course, Kev Tutal had a bunch more to say. He always does. Kev, we love you. We love you. He said, that's more of an inside thing. He said, Super Metroid has some control issues, as Neil said, but mastering those issues was part of the challenge. Once you got good at them, the game becomes astounding and satisfying. I'm sure Neil will agree with you, and I will not, Kev.
Absolutely 100% agree with him. Yeah, that game is very good. It's definitely, I mean, it made it onto the classic SNES and is on the Nintendo Online SNES games for a reason.
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm sure it is great. It's just not my cup of tea. He also says the makers of Mass Effect tried to bury the series, let it go, laugh out loud, just kidding. Yes, bug glitch-free versions would be nice. Then he also says the games he's playing are Rainbow Six Siege, Minecraft, RimWorld, Sons of Solar Empire with an incredible Star Wars mod. And then finally, he says loot boxes are stupid. Just sell cosmetics a la carte. And you know what? On that front, I totally agree. I don't know why we need loot boxes on that thing. And I will say there are certain times where it's like, why can't I just play the character I want to play? I'll just give you some stuff for it. You know, I don't quite understand the premise of loot boxes on that front. So what are you playing right now there, Neil?
I got my hands in a lot of different pies right now, but I am primarily going through all of the Halo games in the Master Chief Collection with my wife.
Oh.
Just finished the Halo 2 Anniversary Remake, and we are about 3/4 of the way through Halo 3. We are going to skip Halo 3 ODST because that was just kind of like they needed to throw a Halo game out there between 3 and Reach. But after that, we did go chronological. So we did start with Reach. We did Reach 1, 2, and now we're in 3. And then we're going to go through to 4. And I think that's going to be it because she enjoys playing with me, but I don't think she's a fan of the games and the story itself. So I don't think she's going to go off and play 5 on her own.
That's cool. That's really cool. I actually liked ODST because I thought the voice acting was really good. It kind of pulled me in. But the game itself was kind of a train wreck.
What about you? What are you playing?
What am I playing? I'm actually still playing Monster Hunter World because me and Phil are trying. We kind of painted ourselves in a corner with the On the Hunt series, and like he can't beat the game because we're fighting every master rank monster the first time on camera. He can't beat the game without us getting through it. Like I have to be there. We have to record it. So we're kind of stuck playing that together as much as we possibly can. But in addition to that, for free right now on Xbox via Games with Gold is Knights of Pen and Paper and Knights of Pen and Paper 2, which was originally a mobile game. I want to shout this game out. It is an amazing little game. It really is. Basically, the premise of it is it's a turn-based RPG, but the gimmick is your people playing D&D at a table to a game master, so the world kind of like appears around the table, and so there's aspects to it of like what the player is in addition to like whether they're an elf or a paladin or whatever, and it's turn-based, and I don't hate it, which is another thing that's kind of surprising. I downloaded it for free just because it was a small download. I want to give it a try, and it's really good. It's really good. I highly recommend anybody out there giving it a try. They're looking for something different. And even if you hate it, it's real small. It downloads in like 10 minutes, you can play it for 10 minutes and then just be done with it if you want. But I'm really enjoying that one.
I'm really glad you ended up saying like it's really good, it's really great eventually, because you started with I don't hate it, which is not the most
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's not a very resounding endorsement. But it is actually, the reason I said I don't hate it is I usually, when you say to me turn-based RPG, it's like, I will be going. You have a wonderful evening. But it's a turn-based, and it kind of got me a little bit. So I've been playing that on the side. And then, of course, Animal Crossing. I think everybody in the world's playing Animal Crossing. So that just is what that is. Okay, so we should ask a question for next week, shouldn't we?
Probably.
You know, I always think of like 5 questions in the course of the week leading up to this, but when I sit down here and I turn this mic on, they just run right out of my head. Right out of my head.
How about game that should be a movie?
Oh, okay. All right. We can do that. Game that should be a movie. And I'll have some choice words about that as well next week. Okay. All right. So that brings us to our lead topic of the week. And, I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of getting sick of talking about PlayStation. But it would be irresponsible for us having a gaming news podcast to not talk about the situation that PlayStation is in. So without further ado, PlayStation 5, there is a leak. I don't think that any of this is truly confirmed yet, but the leak is that PlayStation 5's price is not going to be low like everybody thought, but actually kind of high at $550. And that in addition to that, they're going to be releasing a limited stock of them, meaning they will be very hard to get. Anybody who remembers when the Wii came out, or hell, even when the Switch came out, that kind of thing. Like they all sell out, and then you're paying double that on eBay for them if you want them. So what do you think about this, Neil?
So again, I think this is something that's in 2 separate parts.
Okay.
The limited stock is definitely, I think, regardless of anything, like we already know that these things are going to be expensive to make in general. There have been multiple reports of the cost to manufacture these is going to be high on its own.
Right.
So, and they also are coupling the fact that we're in the middle of essentially a recession with the virus and everything running rampant.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to have this money to just go out and blow on a whim unless they're specifically saving their stimulus check for it, which some may. But I think that it is a good move, that it would be foolish for them to manufacture a demand that's not there in the consoles that they make. Now, as for the cost, I think that, we had kind of talked about the cost thing before.
Right.
There's a very real chance that they may just have the consoles may be the same price. I'm still not backing down from the Series X being like 50 plus from what
I'll wait to eat that dinner.
But if that's the case, though, we are still going to have a problem of if both of those consoles come out at $550 as a price point, and the PS4 or PS5, I keep wanting to call it the PS4. If the PS5 is going to be the weaker console spec-wise, unless they are working miracles with the file consolidation and compression and making those games run on that lesser hardware, on a Surface even, like nobody's going to go out and buy the weaker thing unless they are diehard fans of Sony, which again there are, and it will move consoles with these games, whatever they end up being, launch titles. They have a very strong following when it comes to their software, but I don't think that the PlayStation 5 is going to be in a good place to beat Microsoft if they're the same console, the same price, but a weaker console.
Okay, so I wanted to give you ample time because I'm about to go batshit crazy. I agree. First of all, I will disagree again because we have a bet and I am backing it all the way. I think Microsoft has the money. They're going to undercut them at 500. They're not only going to undercut them at 500, but they're going to have a full stock. They're not going to go limited. So they will have the consoles to actually sell people. And I have another conspiracy theory about PlayStation 5 that comes right off the conspiracy theory I pitched. Was it last week? Did I pitch the conspiracy theory?
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
I'm ready for this.
Okay.
And
All right. So we already were talking about the PS5 having internal issues. Like there's been a leak that it doesn't optimize correct, that the actual build of it overheats and that causes problems with the games. Of course, none of this is confirmed, but a lot of people were speculating, myself included, that there was not going to be a PlayStation 5 in 2020, that it would be early 2021 because they'd have to go back to the drawing board and redesign this thing. So I have a theory now, and one of my theories was one of the things they were doing was they were using the virus to kind of set up the reason for them actually delaying. So instead, I think here's what they're doing. Here's what they're thinking. They're thinking, okay, we're not going to delay. We can't delay. So here's what we do. We sell it in limited amounts. We sell the broken ass copies, but we sell it in limited amounts for a higher price. So that means it gets out into the public less. Less people means less problems with it. Not only that, it drives the market price up. It makes it look more popular than it is. That gives them time to redesign the next model. And then by the time 2021 rolls around and they do like full manufacturing release, then it's not as broken anymore. It's not busted. So like they're limiting their exposure to it. They're going to filter their exposure on the unit to the public is what they're going to do.
I have one glaring issue with that.
Oh, okay, bring it on. Kevin's getting happy right now. He's getting excited.
And that is going to be the fact that Sony will be putting out their quote-unquote first generation of the PS5 and literally 1 year later being like, yeah, so we kind of botched this one, but we had to put something out in general. But here's the actual PS5 with the fixes and everything. That inevitably will hit the news no matter what. And guaranteed 100% they will catch all of the shit for it. Because Nintendo actually kind of did something along those lines with the 3DS. They had their 3DS came out, and then they had a different model with improved stuff. If I remember correctly, it had an improved hardware inside of it. This happened back in like 2011. So this was a while ago, but I do remember they caught holy hell for it. And they actually had to give people money who had bought a 3DS before this came out. And it didn't turn out very well for them. And unless Sony is that desperate to put out consoles like right now to maintain some sort of relevancy, that I don't think that that's necessarily what's going to happen. I think that if all of these leaks and everything are true, like they have got to delay that console. There's no way they can't. And frankly, if they're going to delay the console anyways, they may as well just suck it up and make it something that's comparable to the Series X spec-wise. But again, if they're already having price issues with what they have now with these bespoke parts that they're using for the PS5, it's only going to drive that price up higher, and they really got to come with the fury to be able to stand against the Series X. But the Series X is still, we cannot make any sort of solid who's going to win what until we know what those price points are for those consoles.
I don't disagree with you. There's a lot to unpack in what you just said. First of all, to keep the fight going so that we keep Kevin as a viewer, I think you're crazy. I think that they are thinking they could easily package this to the public, and they're not going to say they're not. And I don't remember the 3DS thing. Unfortunately, I wasn't covering games at that time, and I was playing them, but I'm not a Nintendo guy, so that's out of my wheelhouse. I've got to take your word for that, and I trust you on it. So, but I just can't compare it in my experience. For what I think they're going to do, I think they could totally get away with it by releasing just a few, crossing their fingers that there's no issues. Maybe they get lucky and there aren't that many issues. And then they go, all right, well, those were the virus copies. Here's some really good copies, still at $550. They could totally package it. They could say, we're just constantly improving. Here's some more. Like, they could package this without taking the publicity hit. And I think at least I think they can. And I think that they also don't necessarily have the money to delay. I know that PlayStation is a big seller. I know it is. I'm not arguing that. It's the PlayStation 4 is the highest selling console in history, if I recall correctly. But Sony as an overall company doesn't have that kind of money. Like, they put a lot of money into those consoles. So you got to think they're hemorrhaging right now, and they're not getting as much in as they're putting out. They need the bump. They need the money. And they can't afford to become irrelevant to the Series X by delaying for 6 months. They just can't. They can't do it. But before I hand it back over to you arguing with me again, what was the other thing you said? You said something else, and now I can't remember. I had something to say to it. Oh, I hate it when the train hits the mountain and we're on air.
Oh.
Crud muffins. You go ahead, because I can't remember what I was going to say. There was something else I wanted to say to what you were saying, and now I can't remember what it is.
I mean, honestly, it's just like, I cannot fathom a world that Sony is going to put out a knowingly inferior product at the very beginning of this generation. I mean, they saw what happened with the Xbox One, that launch. The everything that happened from the mandatory online to the mandatory connect at $100 higher price point. If they do not learn from that and they think that their console is like, it's going to be fine eventually and the games are just going to be that good, they are crazy. They are absolutely 100% crazy. They have to take the reality of the situation into account. But I think that if these are all issues and that they do have to delay the console and they already know about this overheating, they're not going to ship. They know that they can't ship. And if
all right, I'm going to stop you, because here's my big problem with what you're saying. You started off by saying they're not going to knowingly ship an inferior console. They went and did a GDC meeting where they threw the numbers up there. They know this console isn't as good as the Xbox Series X. They're already shipping an inferior console.
Well,
I mean, that's the console itself is inferior to the Series X. Whether or not there's glitches or design flaws, they're already shipping an inferior console. So, I mean, unless they can get that price down, which all signs point to they can't.
Well, by inferior, I meant like the inferior version of a PS5.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Honestly, yeah, no, I would never argue with the specs that are out right now compared to the Series X. I mean, objectively, numbers don't lie. That the PS5 is going to be weaker, but what is it like? What is their edge? What makes it? What makes it so much greater than the Series X?
Right.
Maybe bank software. Like, if the game with the specs that they have right now, but the games that they're putting out, all their first party stuff is top notch and doesn't cause any sort of issues, then they might be able to get away with it. Now, granted, I I still can't see a world in spending the same amount of money for a more inferior thing compared to something else. But at the same time, you know, there are certain experiences that you can't get on the PlayStation 5. And that's what I think a lot of people need to ask themselves is, well, is it worth my money? Do I want this more so than that?
Right.
Like, the line of reasoning that I've used is because of Microsoft's model, what they're doing with the Series X. They've outright said you don't need a new Xbox One just yet. You're still
Right.
going to be on games. And our S does just fine. But you're going to be hard locked into this console with the PlayStation 5. So these games are going to be stuck to that hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe PlayStation 6 will be backwards compatible, but we're thinking, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road. But when you're going to be locked into that console like that, you got to make damn sure that everything for the rest of that console's life is going to run, or at least halfway through, because the mid-generation upgrades are okay. Now, do you see a world in that they just say, fuck it, ship the PS5 as it is, and really just hammer that nail down in for the mid-console upgrade for the PlayStation 5?
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's kind of what I'm getting to is I feel like they're going to do this limited thing, hope that they don't have that many problems with it, and then they're going to market this as a mid-console thing. Like, even though it's not, even though it's going to come sooner. I'm not convinced that they're not going to, like, I mean, the other thing is too, if they do a limited series release and the console isn't really great, instead of just doing like a 6 month later upgraded thing, they could just be like, okay, well, it's out there. It is what it is. We're going to lose money. Let's take what we get. And then, like you said, hammer down the mid season one, and then just give themselves more time and just leave it limited series until they get to that cannot talk mid console generation kind of upgrade. I think either way they're in serious trouble and here's why I think that some of the 550 and limited series rumors are more truer than not, because Xbox and Phil Spencer, anybody with eyes can see that they've been playing chicken with PlayStation this entire time, waiting to hear the price so that they can. And another reason I think it's going to be 500, because they want to undercut them. They've been waiting to see what it is so that they can undercut them. I think the fact that they just announced mid-May thing that they're going to do, I think that's them saying, okay, they're at 550, or at least we are certain enough that they're going to be close enough to 550 that we know we can come in and do what we need to do at this point. I also think that if Series S is real, then PlayStation is going to hemorrhage this generation.
Yeah, it very well could. And I think that every time we get into a conversation about the next generation, what it's going to bring, I always think back to that ebb and flow that always sort of seems to happen between the generations, especially between those two. You know, PlayStation 1, it was kicking ass. And then in the PlayStation 2 generation, well, the original Xbox came in, and then PlayStation 2. Well, Microsoft was still getting its footing. The Xbox was okay, but it wasn't stellar. I think we can all agree on that.
Right.
But the 360 came along and just steamrolled Sony and the PlayStation 3 generation. Well, then they got that big head and came in with all that craziness for the Xbox One. And Sony swooped in with the PlayStation 4 and just kind of owned them on the E3 stage. And we're still feeling the repercussions from that, because Microsoft cannot shake what happened and just that image of what the Xbox One is, especially without a very strong library of games support it. But now we're coming into this next generation. Sony thinks it's king shit of Turd Mountain.
Yep.
And can throw out anything, and full well, you know, maybe putting out a console that's going to be less expensive for the same price thinking, well, our software is going to sell it. Okay, that's fine if the console works. If these overheating rumors are true, they have a serious issue on their hands.
Yeah.
And then here's Microsoft, who just cut their losses halfway through the generation, said, we're going to put out what we've got going, but we're going to build to the next generation.
Yeah. I think there was a legitimate mistake. I think there was a legitimate spit take moment for PlayStation when they saw the Series X and the stats on it. I think they were like, they can do what? Oh no. Like, I think they really underestimated Sony, Xbox, and I think now they're really paying for it. Like, I think they're trying to find a way. And then you add in what's going on in the world, I'm sure it's hurting them as well. And I just don't think that they're ready for what Microsoft is going to put out. And I could be wrong. I mean, software sells systems, and as much as I disagree with it, the software on Sony is more wanted than the software on Xbox. So that's something right there. You know, Sony's built up these games that, while I don't particularly interest me, you still have Last of Us 2, God of War, these games that like call people out, you know, and it'll be really interesting. I think right now, if things go the way we think they're going to go, I think it'll be really telling if Microsoft is ever going to be a contender. Because if Microsoft can't get the numbers back with this much of a handicap at this point, I don't know how they would ever get the market back.
And, you know, it almost makes me think too, like, we're already going really long on this segment, but I just want to say one more thing on this.
Okay.
It's like, it almost like is making me think about the Dreamcast. Back when still making consoles, they were so, oh man, like, this is it. This is going to be the thing, the game changer. We got a powerful console with these games. They're going to be great games. Everything's going to be fantastic. And if they cannot shake what happened with the Xbox One generation, and their process is not really the greatest, like, not the greatest. I think that they have a great idea for what the next generation should be eventually.
Yeah.
But I think that it very well could be what you're saying. Like, we could have to question if there's going to be an Xbox Series X2, maybe.
Right. Exactly. All right. So I think we should move on from that. Pause. All right. So moving on from that highly contested topic, we go to our next topic, another thing that we're talking about again, that we don't love talking about, that we'd love to move on, but I kind of feel like we're pretty hard on this company, and this is actually kind of some decent news, so I feel like we should discuss it. But before we do, Neil has something to say.
Well, yes. My thoughts are mine alone, nobody else's. I do not have any external sourcage on this. I have no anything like that. I am strictly speaking to the article that was sent to me.
By me.
By Zach.
Okay, so the article in question, IGN broke it, and basically GameStop plans to reopen their stores and cut executive salaries. So GameStop CEO will take a temporary 50% pay cut, and the other members of the executive team will be taking a 30% pay cut, while they are looking to actually reopen physical stores. I'm guessing coming off the news that everything is supposed to start kind of reopening May 1st. So aside from the virus stuff, okay, before we get into that nasty quagmire of a conversation that we always have, I do want to say that I am really happy to see the CEOs and the executives finally taking a hit for a company that's not doing good. And that should have been the first thing out the gate when the company wasn't doing good. They should be like, all right, well, I'm not going to get paid $40 million a year then. I'm going to be, you know what I mean? I'm going to funnel that back into the business to try and grow it. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do, is keep the business afloat. But again, that seemed a little negative. I do think this is really good. I know that they've built up a lot of negative feedback, and this is probably going to feel a little bit like too little too late sort of situation, but I still like to hear that they have actually taken a step in the right direction, even though they've taken 57 steps in the wrong direction. It's still, I want to call out that they actually took one in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, I think that absolutely the pay cuts should have happened a while ago. Like taking responsibility at an executive level for the decisions that you're making. I mean, that's leadership. That's taking responsibility, plain and simple, right off the top.
Right.
Even if it's something that's not your fault, even if it's like, oh, well, people just don't want to buy X right now and we're a victim of circumstance. It's not like you're not still getting millions of dollars. You're just getting less millions of dollars. And like, if your company's not doing good, that's a reflection of your leadership, and you need to make ends meet with that. Fix it however you can. Who deserves a raise when they're bad at their job? Not saying that these people are bad at their job, but if you're not bringing money in for the company in general, well, why do you deserve extra money? Just because you stayed there to continue to do the things that you're doing? Like, I don't understand.
Which have already been proven to be the wrong things. And you're right, maybe it's not their fault, but at the end of the day, the way this society is built, for good or bad, I'm not saying it's good. I'm really not saying it's good, but the way capitalism is built and these companies are built, it's a numbers thing. It's all about how much money you receive from another person and then how much money you give to another person to do a thing. That's it. That's the entire basis of everything that this country revolves around. And on that just ideal, why would the CEOs be making tons of money? Like that, those would be the first guys who should be funneling the money back into the company to try and make more money. So I think it should have happened a long time ago, but I think, yes, that is an example of a good thing. And I think other companies in this situation that we're in should be doing that. I mean, and this isn't even virus related, but you look at the whole Randy Pitchford Gearbox thing. Me and Phil talked a little bit about that on our last Borderlands State of Play. He's not giving the bonuses to his employees that he's supposed to give, but he took like a $20 million bonus the year before. Why isn't his employees getting that money when they should? You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do. Like, and it's not like these people aren't living comfortably,
Right. I mean, I guess there's something to be said for having a lifestyle that you have to maintain when you get an amount of money. I mean, you have contracts and agreements that you signed. Right. That's another end of the argument. And I've never, I won't fight people on that. But, even just considering, like, let's say somebody makes $40 million and like, okay, well, we got to take $10 million off of you to put back into the company or something like that.
Right. What is that? Like, what is that to you?
Oh, woe is me. I can't feed my family now because you took $10 million away from me. What are you eating, first off? And second, how bad are you with money in general that making $40 million a year, you spend $30 million somehow, and that $10 million is breaking you? Why are you in the position that you're in?
Right. It's just, I mean, I'm having a hard time staying positive on this because this is the right thing. We're supposed to be like saying this is a good thing.
Well, I don't know.
Here, keep talking for a second.
Oh, you're good. I mean, I don't know necessarily about we think it's the greatest thing. I mean, I personally think that reopening, we should maybe consider like holding off a little bit on the reopen to some degree. I mean, they're literally opening the stores that are strictly just going to be open and unregulated, whenever everything starts opening back up. And I know we're getting into that weird, awkward political territory now, but I think that these stores should, I don't know, maybe see what's happening and eventually make an overall decision like, well, once we hit this point, maybe we'll reopen. And it's not like they're closed, they're still making sales and everything online. They're still doing. In fact, I just bought yesterday. I got my copy of Final Fantasy VII. I managed to track one down.
That's like a curbside, isn't it? That they do now too.
Is they're doing curbside. So I think them saying, oh, we're going to reopen is a little bit dishonest. They want to open in that they want floods of people to come back in and spend all of their stimulus money or anything that they've made. I think that they still have not shook the stink off from them trying to claim that they're an essential business. Now they're like, okay, well, we're open, so let's just go sell things now. I think that they need to dial it back a little bit. And I think they also have these expectations that, oh, well, now that people are going to be, now that the quarantine's going to be lifted and people are going to be able to spend money, they're going to want to. Maybe at first, but outside of that, I'm thinking that the main reason they saw their bump in sales to begin with is because everybody was going to be locked inside their houses.
Yep.
Well, people aren't going to be locked inside their houses anymore, and I think that they might be surprised at the amount of sales and everything that they're actually doing.
Well, honestly, I think that's one of the reasons that they really want to get back open. They want to get back open before the quarantine is fully, because even the way everybody's talking, even when we start reopening, it's going to be like a slow reopen. There's still going to be all these weird things in place, and honestly, people aren't going to want to go outside their house even if it's reopened. Like, they'll go out because they have to, but the people who are really afraid of this virus are going to want to stay in their house.
I'm sorry, just a quick little anecdote here. Like, I work in Pennsylvania. I live in Ohio. I work in Pennsylvania. And if I want to go to Walmart now, like at any point that's right behind my work, I have to literally wear a mask. Legally, I have to wear a mask. I cannot be out in public without a mask or I will get a fine. Right. And that on its own is enough to make me like, I don't even want to go. Like,
right.
Go over there. I'll go to the one here in Ohio. Just that on its own is going to make me not want to go out. Combine that with all the other reasons for people to not want to leave their houses, I think it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation, but I think I think that's one of the reasons they want to get open as fast as possible, because those people who don't want to leave are still going to want to buy their video games and stay in their house. You know what I mean? I think that their sales bump is going to go away, but I think it's going to stick around, and I think they want to capitalize on that sales bump as soon as they possibly can, because they know it's starting to incline down again,
That would be a decline.
Decline. You are correct, sir.
Incline down, reverse up.
Look. An incline and a decline is just the way you're looking at the line. That's all it is, damn it. It's perception. God, Neil, you just sounded like my wife, and I don't know how to feel about that. I really don't. I heard my wife in you right there.
But anyways.
Anyways. All right. Well, I think we've just about covered it. Great that they're covering the money. Worried that they're reopening and being dangerous, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty much solves it. All right. So that brings us to the end of the show, the main event, the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the Horrible Arena. What is the Horrible Arena if you're a person who's just decided to tune in on episode 38? Well, the Horrible Arena is where all the co-hosts present get to pitch you a video game. They get to decide the title of that video game, the developer that they would want to make this video game, and then they give you the elevator pitch. Now, once we're done, you, the viewer or listener, can comment below. Find us on Facebook or Twitter. Text me or email me. Doesn't matter. But you vote for the game that you would spend your hard-earned money on, and then next week we decide a winner. So, the quantum coin has been tossed. The one other thing that you need to know that I somehow strangely forgot is that the games we pitch are based on predetermined criteria that we decided beforehand. this week's criteria has made both of us uncomfortable. Sports games. That's right. We will be pitching you sports games. So, Neil, the Quantum Coin chose you. Take it away.
So mine is definitely going to be something. I think it's something that people have thought about before, and if not, I don't know why, because it's frankly kind of generic. I'm going to say that the game that I want to make is a football game in space. Make it like maybe even some sort of like Quidditch ass shit. I'm not quite sure. Honestly, I don't even know all the rules of football. I'm winging it here so hard. I'm going to say that EA is going to make it because they're the only ones that I know of that make sports games. That's how little I know. And that they are going to play football in space in a 3D environment instead of a field. And sports is going to happen, and it's going to be in space, and that's why you're going to buy it. That's it.
All right. Okay. So that was, what was the project name on that one?
Even know. Oh my God.
All right. So Project Space Football.
Project Space Football. This is kryptonite.
I do want to say one other thing. Logan, if you've listened to all of this, this was definitely going to be your win. All right. Space Football. Just recording it on the list.
I will accept pity votes.
All right. So my game is Kill Ball. What is Kill Ball? No, you don't murder a bunch of people. It just sounds really cool, so I used Kill Ball. But my developer will be 2K because they're the only ones who should be making sports games. EA are monsters. And I don't want loot boxes, which I definitely get in any EA game. So what's Kill Ball? So here's the question here. First of all, I know sports a little bit better than Neil, so that's a little bit unfair. I've definitely watched my fair share of sports. However, I'm not a big sports guy, and I don't know that all of our audience are big sports guys. So I really thought about how to do this question, and I decided the best way to do it, because a lot of people wouldn't even know the rules of sports, would be to just make up my own sport. So I did. Kill Ball. Here's what it is. It is a field about the size of a hockey rink, maybe a little bit bigger. And it is divided into 3 sections. You have one big goalie guy and a big open spot on the other side. And then you have 5-player teams that take each other on. Now, they toss a ball back and forth, and the rules kind of reflect rugby as far as it's constantly running. You're constantly hitting each other. You can never stop with the ball. That's a penalty. You can never drop the ball. That's a penalty. So it's constantly moving, constant action. You can check people. You can take people out. So the gameplay itself will be very fast. It'll have a lot of passing, a lot of tricks to it. You can get special abilities. And I would make this a very, very competitive, not necessarily competitive multiplayer, but all about making your own leagues with friends, filling out the leagues with AI teams as well as yourself. And then creating like your teams and your characters, because one of my most favorite thing about sports games is the logistics of it, like putting your team together. Each place, the arena too, you can also construct. The arena will have different traps and different environmental hazards that will affect both teams, but maybe your team has a little bit more resistance to it. So like if you're Northland barbarian type people, your arena would be like snowy or winter type area, and other teams would have a hard time with the cold. Yes, this is going to be a little bit more medieval style. It's going to be like basically a medieval world, but to stop doing war, they invented Kill Ball, basically. And who gives a crap about anything else? You're playing a weird sports game anyway. But I want there to be races in it. Orcs and goblins and all sorts of stuff. Kind of like Mutant League football, but a little bit more refined. And the other thing that I want this game to have is a real feel of simulation. Even though there's not an actual Kill Ball out there. There's not an actual sport that is Kill Ball. One thing that I hate is anytime you get these kind of really cool concept sport games like Mutant League Football, it always ends up being really arcadey in the play of it. And I don't like NFL Blitz or arcadey football stuff. I want a logistical, strategy-based football game that I can play with crazy characters. Or not even football, like kill ball is obviously its own thing. It does resemble it in a little bit because you hit each other. But I want something like that where you get those logistics. So I almost want it to be a more simulatory feel as far as the play itself. So that's my pitch. Kill ball. Everybody out there, you've got your 2 pitches. Project Space Football versus Project Kill Ball. Which one are you guys going to vote for? You can vote in the comments below. You can vote on Facebook. I shouldn't be doing all of the things because we're going to shamelessly self-promote in a second anyway. But Neil, do you got anything to add?
Yeah, I didn't know that we could make up a sport.
I didn't say you couldn't. I just said sports game.
That's fair, but when you say sports game, the only thing I can think of is like Madden.
I was about to say, I was like, he's going to invent a sport too. Like, I thought that was what you were going to do, honestly. I didn't think that you were going to just pitch a sport game.
I definitely would have done that. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. We don't have enough time to walk this back.
Oh, it's okay. It's recorded. It's history. It's a thing. It's going to be referenced as the time that Neil was a fucking idiot. That time where he was just like dumb and just said words about sports. Yeah.
I gotta say, the other game I almost pitched was just a good tennis game, period, ever. Because we never get a good tennis game. There are no good tennis games. I just want a good tennis game for once in our lives.
There is a good tennis game. It's called ping pong.
Oh my God. No, I'm not even gonna dignify that, Neil. Not gonna dignify it. All right, so shameless self-promotion. You guys can find us on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on Twitter at Old Man Gaming 9. You can join our Discord. You can influence just about all the shows we have to offer from there. And that link will be in the description below. And of course, comment here as well. Vote or communicate with us. Make any comments you want. We try and read them on the show, as many as we can. We love to talk to you guys, and we love to hear from you. And as usual, we will be back next week, because as long as you guys keep watching and listening to these, we will keep making them. See you guys later.